Alright guys, today I'm going to show you how to make a Fortnite montage from start to finish with everything you need to know about DaVinci Resolve and stuff like that as well.
I'm in the store every night, I got work in the morning. When we getting BIG, we in the VIP, I'm feeling very important. Just met a chick, I forgot where she from, but I think she said Portland, Oregon. Shorty foreign but boring, I never been to her crib when I do, I'm a tourist. She used a dummy way back in the day, now I'm going, no, she can't ignore it. I'm in the cream, I'm doing way over the limit, I get.
The first thing you can know when you first open DaVinci Resolve, it's going to look pretty empty. There's probably not going to be anything in the timeline, and there's probably going to be nothing there. This is how you actually use the UI. First things first, this is the media pool. Click this, open that up. This is where you can drag in your clips. By the way, these bottom part is the tabs that you can open. These are different things, but essentially the only ones you need to worry about right now are the edit tab, the fusion tab, and the rendering tab. The effects panel is where you're going to find all the different effects that you can use, like transitions, audio effects, everything. You can also favorite certain ones that you like. The index, honestly, I don't know what this does. Sound library, you don't really need to worry about, but this inspector tab is important to have open. And then this is basically just switches between having this cover up the whole screen or having it just locked up there. This top part of the screen is where you're going to find all these different selections of stuff about DaVinci Resolve. See the version that you have downloaded, keyboard customization, playback. Make sure you have render cache smart enabled, and then make sure you have playback resolution at full. Then at DaVinci Resolve top left, keyboard customization. And these are the main things that you need to change on your keyboard customization. So change compound clip, change that to something easy. For me, I have at C. Open in Fusion page, change that to something simple like F. For me, I have it as F. And then retime controls, I have mine as Control R, and retime curve, I have mine as R. But these two are also very important. Next thing that's not as important is cache color output. You can find that something easy, or you can just leave it blank, but that's pretty important. Next thing you need to have is razor. Bind that to something simple. For me, I have it as a button on my mouse. For you, you might want to change it to something like Z or A or something like that. Something very easy to press. But yeah, these are my keybinds, and they're honestly pretty useful. Now that you have that, you're going to want to download some plugins for DaVinci Resolve. These are two free ones I have on screen right now. They're in the description as well. So make sure you follow those videos before you get to this one. So now that we're back in DaVinci, let's talk about these things. These are called layers. When you first start the timeline, I'm just going to create a new timeline. When you first start timeline, there's only going to be two of them. You can hold down shift to change the size of the layers. Okay, hold down shift and scroll, change the size of the layers. This button right here will show you all the different options for changing it. Holding down the middle mouse button and dragging around, this is going to scroll through your timeline. You can also use this bar down here, but holding down the middle mouse button is better. This right here is also how you change the scale of your timeline. Alright, so anyways, that's pretty much it for the edit tab. We got this volume slider right here. You can control the volume of your timeline without controlling the actual volume of the video when you render it out. But aside from that, that's all we need to know about the edit page. We'll talk about the Fusion page later in the tutorial, but let's start with actually making the montage. So I have a song right here. You can just go ahead and drag and drop media from your file explorer straight into the timeline. Once you have that, go ahead and just drag in the song. Put mine on the first audio layer. Hold on shift and scroll to get the waveform. But right now, we're just going to go through, deselect the audio, and move this playhead until you see all the beat drops. So I just heard a beat drop. I'm going to go back and press M on my keyboard, or whatever button you have to mark it. I think this is a marker button, but you don't use this button. You can use M on your keyboard. You can drag to and select, press backspace to delete markers, but basically just go through and mark every single part of the beat. So right here, that would be a point where you want to mark because there's like a beat drop. So just like imagine you're making a Fortnite montage on top of this, and where do you think the kills would be? Mark where you think the kill should be. So like I wouldn't mark these two beats because they're too close together. Unless you want to do that style. Alright, there we go. I marked out four beats, but for this tutorial we're only gonna do like 1 or 2 clips. Alright, so once you've done that, hold down shift and drag that down one layer. Now we can start dragging in our actual video Fortnite gameplay. So let me find one of my clips. Alright, so I have a Fortnite replay right here. I'm gonna double click it in my media pool. This is important. Double click it. Okay, now it should stay here even when your mouse is not hovering over it. Now that you have that, go ahead and move this around until you find the clip. Move this little bar right here around until you find the actual clip. And then I'm going to press I and O on my keyboard to actually show where I want to start and end the clip, where I want the clip to start. So I start shooting here. I'm going to press O on I on my keyboard. I'm going to press O at the end of the clip. You can either drag in just the video track or just the audio track. But if you want both together, just go ahead and select the middle of the screen or somewhere on the screen and drag down to your timeline. It should be like this. And now you can press this link button right here and have this highlighted. So now when you move this top track, it'll move the audio with it. Anyways, move your playhead over to the first marker that you made and slide the clip over until you hit until you find the actual shot. So like right here, I want to keyframe it up to right here. So now the kill should be timed up to the beat. Space is playback. But yeah, now the kill is timed up to the beat. That's perfect. Now what we want to do is have some slow-mo. So what we're going to do is we're going to press Control R or whatever you have binded to retime controls. And then we're going to unclick this magnet button. Now move over to where the shotgun pulls out. Okay, add a speed point. Go over maybe like a couple of frames. Add another speed point. Then go to like where the kill happens. Maybe I'll go right here. Add another speed point. That should be good. So now we have a speed point where the gun pulls out, where the gun's about to shoot, and then after the kill. So this right here changes the frame where the speed point starts. Okay, so if you slide the bottom of it, it should change this frame. So like if I want the slow-mo to start at this frame, I would slide this point right here over here. But this right here changes the speed. So make sure you're selecting the top of the speed point, not the bottom of the speed point. Once you have that, go ahead and drag the speed point in between the gun pulling out. Just drag it to like 50%. Now drag this one in between the kill tighter together. And then drag the end out like 30% or 20%. So now put the sped up part right where the marker is. So now you have something like this. So now it looks kind of goofy because we didn't really tweak it that much. So we can make this look a lot better. So let's actually make this a little bit faster. And you might want the speed to be different every single clip. But this is the general rules you should follow to get good Twixtor or time remapping. You can also add a little speed point before the pump pulls out. So maybe I want something to speed up right here. So I'll add another speed point like randomly before. Speed it up. So now we have something like this. Looks kind of stupid to be honest on this clip, but sometimes it looks good. So yeah, that's pretty much how you do time remapping. You can kind of just adjust it until it looks good. Once you've done that, you can press R on your keyboard or whatever you do to open up retime speed. But you can make sure to click this drop down right here. Change it, turn off retime frame, and leave retime speed on. Click over here. It should pop up with all the dots on it. Smooth these points out by clicking this button. There you go. That makes it slightly different. Looks a little bit better. So now select the clip again, press R, or you might have to press it twice, but that's basically how I open up and close the retime controls. Also, if you want the last part to be stretched out, you just select the top of the clip. But there's another way to actually do time remapping. So let's say you have a point in the beat that you actually want to like sync it up to that has more than one beat point. So like what if it's like this? Like what if I want to sync it up to this beat? So like speeds up a little bit here, speeds up a little bit here, speeds up a little bit here. You could do this method, but there's also another way you can do it that's a little bit easier for this. So let's get our clip. Alright, so we have a better clip for this. But essentially what you want to do is go to the middle point, just line it up to the beat. Alright, that's fine right here. Then what you want to do is extend it out a little bit. Now that we have that, let's press compound clip. Press C on your keyboard, compound clip, create. Then press F on your clip selected. Now the Fusion page should open up, and this is where we're going to get to the next segment, which is actually using the Fusion page. So in the Fusion page, it's got the same menu to the top like we had in the timeline. Media pool can open up. You can open up effect. The one thing about the media pool that's different is that now your clips will import as nodes instead of layers. Because now we're working with nodes. Anyways, we got the effects tab. Once again, clips tab. You don't really need this one. And then you can turn off the nodes for some reason. Don't turn off the nodes. All right. So the next part of this is these two are very important right here. You got the spline button right here, and this is gonna be how you can edit the keyframes and edit the graphs to be a lot smoother. Keyframes button is how you can edit your keyframes better, and that's about it. The inspector panel right here, you can toggle on and off, which is essentially just like the inspector panel on the edit page, but a little bit better. So now what you do is you can click this button right here at the top to toggle between one viewer or two viewers. I'm gonna put mine at one viewer. Press Control F to fit on your screen. So Control F, and then turn off the effects panel. Now your layout should be pretty clean. And now let's talk about actually like doing the effect that we want to do with the time remapping. So press Shift Space on your keyboard, search up time stretcher. Boom, press enter. Want the time stretcher node to be keyframed at 0 on the first frame. So drag your little line right here to the first frame, and then type in 0 and keyframe that with this button right here. This essentially just saves the frame to be at this, to start at this point and stay there, since I didn't keyframe anything else. So remove that other keyframe by clicking that arrow right here, and then just pressing the keyframe button again to remove it. Go to the end of the clip, and then copy this number right here, which is the end frame of the clip itself. Press Control C, and then paste it into the source time and press enter. They have that. You can actually time remap the clip. So now it looks like the clip is playing back in regular speed. If your computer is lagging out, here's what we can do: turn off high quality, turn off motion blur, and turn on the proxy settings by right clicking. Now it should play back a little bit better. Make sure you have, and also make sure in the regular page you turn this on, show all video frames. Okay, back to the future page. Let's see what this clip looks like without any time remapping. Alright, so that's what it looks like. Now let's open up the spline. Alright, now that we're in the spline, you can drag that back a little bit, and you can pretty much just set up your own keyframes. So since we have these 3 markers here that were on the timeline, we can drag our playhead through this top line right here till we get to the markers and add markers keyframes while having the time stretcher node selected. So keep adding those keyframes to where the markers are on the timeline. And boom, now that you have that done, you can start messing with this spline and actually make it different. So click this check right here. Click this box on top. Once again, the spline opens up like this. Alright, so how it is, the frames are going to go linearly through the time. And the more inclined the slope is, the faster the frames are going to play. So you're going to see it's like a speed up effect if I do this to one of the points. So look, it looks like it speeds up for a second and slows down. So the flatter this line is, the more slow-mo it has. So with that being said, let's actually edit the keyframes. So select all the points, clicking and dragging, and then press S on your keyboard. If you press T on your keyboard as well, this menu will open up and you can mess with the ease ins and ease outs. But we don't need that yet. Press T again, close that out. But now you can click and drag, select the point. And on the point where the kill happens, make it sharp, like a vertical line. But you might want to leave it look a little bit more like that. And then basically at every single point do that. But don't make it too exaggerated. By the way, same things for scrolling the timeline here. Up and down is up and down on the scroll wheel. Left and right is holding down the middle mouse button and just dragging. And then zooming in is just holding down control and scrolling. So edit these keyframes. Now it should look something like this. So now it should be speeding up after every beat. It's a pretty satisfying effect. And now you can just edit the graph to be however you like. So what if I wanted to slow down at the start? What if I want it to be way more exaggerated? So like this. So now it should look like this. That looks pretty decent. But this is just another way to do time remapping. Final things for this segment is like the flatter the line is, the slower it goes, and the more vertical, the more speed up you have. You want to make your graph look something like this, and it's basically similar to the graph editor in After Effects as well. One more thing is that if your frames are not, you don't have enough frames, so let's say you slowed it down to the point where it's like really slow, too slow to generate any new frames. Let's say you did something like this, crazy, something like this, and it looks like a weird stop motion animation. You gotta go ahead and add Optical Flow. So what you need to do is go to here, make sure your inspector's open, click on Time Stretcher, and click on Flow. Click on Clamp Edges, then press Shift Space on your keyboard, type in Optical Flow. Hold down Shift and drag the time stretcher to be after. And now everything should be working. It should start caching your optical flow, but this is just going to take a long time to render. So what you can do is go back to the timeline, right click, render cache color output, and boom, you have that render cached out. This blue line is basically showing how much of it has actually been cached. So we'll see that the first part plays really smoothly because it's already cached out, but the rest hasn't. Make sure you have show all video frames enabled so you can cache properly. If you're doing that same problem with the time remapping and there's not enough frames and it looks choppy, what you need to do is go over here in the inspector, scroll down until you get to retime scaling, click that, and then change retime process to optical flow, and then enhance better. So now it should be a little bit better. Alright, now that we have that, let's talk about making impacts. In a Fortnite montage, you probably want something that's not just time remapping. So now we're going to go through making an impact like this, and also adding like a little build up to it as well, like this. Alright, I'm gonna have a tutorial bin in the description that has no plugin impacts and buildups, as well as 2 CCs that are pretty decent, I think. But yeah, we're gonna be able to use that for this edit. Once you download the pack from the description, you can go ahead and just drag and drop that into your media pool. Once you have that done, you can press the 3 dots and then click Show Power Bins. You should have this thing called like a power bin right here, another section of your media pool. And what you can do is, it might be empty for you. So what I want you guys to do is just make a new bin and just drag and drop that same DRP file. Just drag and drop it into the media pool, and then you can get to work using them. For the buildups, you can drag and drop them and just line it up to the beginning of the marker, and then go back to that bin and go to your impacts, and then just line those up to the other side of the marker. And now you can just use any of those combinations of buildup and impact to have something like this. Make sure to select both of them, click and drag, select both of them, right click, render cache color output. Now you should have something like this. One more thing is that you can use some of these impacts as beat checks as well. So let's say there's another beat hit right after the kill. The beat hits twice. So we're going to add another impact or whatever after that to have another like little beat shake. Something like this. It's kind of an aggressive shake, but I might have some more beat shakes in the pack as well. Alright, now that we know about that, let's talk about how you can actually make your own presets. And just search up adjustment clip. And And this is basically just going to apply an effect onto the whole clip. Okay, now let's open that up in Fusion Page. This is where you place an adjustment clip after the marker for it to be an impact. So let's use that as impact. So let's press F in the Fusion Page, open that up. Once we have that, we can actually start working on making an impact. So let's drag these two things apart a little bit so we can have space to add stuff. Click on that first node and then search up shake. You can do any shake that you can do any effect that you want, to be honest. But let's just talk about keyframing first. So I'm gonna add a camera shake, go to the first frame and just keyframe the Y deviation to be like this, X to be pretty low, and you can leave the rotation. I'm gonna leave the overall strength like this at the start and keyframe it, and then at the end, I'm gonna drag the keyframe down to 0. Now we have something like this, where the impact slowly starts to stop having shake. But obviously this is kind of an insane shake to have for like 5 seconds. So we need to fix that. Let's go ahead and change the mirror, change the edges to mirror. So now the edges won't be like as messed up. Now what you can do is go back to open up that spline in the top right, click this camera shake thing, make sure you have the camera shake selected over here, press the box, and now you can edit the graph. Hold down Control and scroll to zoom out. Select the 2 points, press S on your keyboard, and then just change this first point to be down like this. So it's really shaky at the start, then it quickly slows down. So now you have something like this, which is more like a real impact. I'm also going to slow down the speed a little bit to make it look a little bit better, but you can tweak these shakes however you like. Now let's talk about adding the motion blur to it. Go to your settings in the top right, and then click motion blur. This motion blur type thing should be on every node that you add, so you can pretty much just use it everywhere. So now it looks like this. The more you up the shutter angle, the more blur there will be. So I'm going to max it out. So now we just have a simple shake. So let's take a look at it with and without the shake. So that's what it looks like. So yeah. So now let's do something like a flicker. Click this little thing in the toolbar and drag in a brightness contrast node. Connect those into the 2 lines and press 2 on your keyboard to show it over here. If you guys didn't know, if you have 2 viewers, you can press 1 and 2 on your keyboard to show which node will be in each window. This is going to be this right now. It's saying that they're in the left and right viewer, but if I click on another node and press 2, it's going to show up in this viewer. If I press 1, it's going to show up in the left viewer. So basically that's how you mess with the viewers. I'm gonna leave that as one viewer because this is going to save your performance. But yeah, so let's keyframe the flicker. You can either manually make the gain like random with keyframes, or you can go over here, right click, modify with shake. Now that you have that, go to your modifier and then change the randomness, smooth this all the way down. Minimum maximum should be fine. I'm gonna change this to like 1.5 and keyframe these 2 things at the start. At the end, keyframe it back down to 1 and 1, and boom. Now it should flicker with the impact. Obviously this is flickering a little bit too much, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna just go over here like halfway through, select all the points, make sure you're clicking that box, and make sure you have this node selected, and then press S on your keyboard. Select all the points, press S, and press T. Now what you can do is you can edit the ease in and ease out, just clicking and dragging, and we want it to be something like this. So now we have a flicker for the beginning, and then it stops towards the end. And let's say you didn't want the flicker black, you wanted to flicker light colors only, so let's change this to 1 at the start. So yeah, that's basically how you mess with that. Now we just have a simple shake and a flicker impact. And if you want to save your presets that you made yourself, just go back to your power bin and just drag that on. So I'll consider this an impact. Just say like, and right click, and then click again, and then you can rename it to be like lift impact. And boom. You can really do whatever effect you want on the impact, to be honest. So let's say we have I'll literally just grab the most random node, like plasma. I don't even know what this is, but you can put this in your impact if you want for some reason. You can literally do whatever you want on the impact, but just don't make it insane. Don't make it shake forever. Make it shake for like half a millisecond or whatever. But let's just say we have this weird plasma effect that we want to be on our impact. Just keyframe the blend, go to the end, keyframe the blend at 0, and you're essentially just adding that to your impact for some reason. I don't know why you would do this effect, but usually make your graph sharp. Usually if you're making a highlights montage, you don't really need to have a build up. The ones I provided here are pretty good. But let's just go ahead and drag one in as a little template. With your impact, you can just go ahead and open that up in Fusion. Now you can mess with make your own build up. Let's delete that stuff. Let's just search up like camera shake. But for a build up, you want it to be a slighter shake. So let's bring these 2 down to maybe halfway. I'll leave the Y how it is. And then you want to have your rotation deviation a little bit down. Leave the speed pretty high, but turn down the overall strength. At the end, make it 1. At the beginning, make it 0. Now it should build up a shake before the impact happens. That's pretty good how it is, but we can also edit the spline. Go over here, make it a little bit sharper. And also you can go back over here to the motion blur settings and turn that back up to 10. And honestly, you can change this to mirror as well, and your shake should be pretty decent for a build-up. One thing you can also do on your build-ups is add like a little zoom in, which is you can do with the transform node. So go ahead and shift space XF. Type in XF, this is the shortcut for transform. Just add that in, and then keyframe your size and set your pivot point. You see this little circle right here. Set your pivot point to be like your character. And then I'm gonna keyframe the size of the start, keyframe the size of the end, go to the spline, and I'm gonna mess with the size graph. So let's press S on your keyboard, and then drag these 2 points up like so. Boom, you should have something like this. Now a lot of people do this on their build-ups. You don't really have to, but it looks kind of decent. Let's use motion blur on this node and make the shutter angle really high. So now we have a build up like this. Let's render cache color output. Alright, so that looks pretty decent. Also on your impacts, I recommend that you guys add a little transform as well. Let's add a shift space and let's add XF. Just drag it on. Let's make it zoom out as time goes on. So key from the size of the start to be pretty high. Then key from the size of the end to be 0. And then add motion blur. Make it 10 quality. Go to the spline. Fit the graph into the screen. And then make the graph sharper. So now it should be like this. So now I have something like this. That's actually perfect. And now let's go ahead and just save these in our impacts folder. Also, you can do whatever you want in the buildup as well. I suggest you guys just open up every of those buildups and impacts and just try to go through it and see how they work. You guys can also try and create your own. And that's pretty much how you can edit your Fortnite montage. After that, you can add a little bit of sound effects, I guess. I'll just drag in a little sound effect that I have onto each kill and just line that up with the beat. And now it should sound something like this. You can also add little build-up sound effects as well. Sound is honestly half the experience, so you gotta make sure that your sound is actually decent. Now let's talk about actually making your ident. For me, the usual ident I use on the channel isn't from DaVinci Resolve. It's actually from Blender, which will probably be in the next tutorial, but for right now, you can just put your name in a text box. I've actually linked the ident thing in the same DaVinci Resolve project file, so you guys can just type your name into that and use it. Anyways, that's the final tutorial, guys. Thanks for watching, and if you guys needed help, comment down below. Let me know if I should do a part 2 and teach you guys how to do skin glows and mask transitions, as well as using Blender.